Welcome, friends of the show. We are back with another episode of the Ferris Wheel Serious Rock Talk podcast.
Ooh, all right.
A big thanks for your emails, suggestions, and your support on our social media platforms. Continue to email us at seriousrocktalk@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Listen to a new show every week. Just tune in each Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. New York City time on Cap City Beats, located at www.capcitybeats.ca. Okay, buckle up for some serious rock talk. Better bust-ups in rock history. Guys, how the hell are you? Here we are back for another season.
Yeah, that's the reason for the season, baby.
Reason for the season. Obviously, to the left of me, a man that needs no introduction, but yet still likes to shine his beard with shoe polish.
And go to nightclubs. Dr. Ian Clark.
And a man who shaved his beard and decides to shine his face anyways with shoe polish because he figures it's the in thing to look like Dr. Clark these days.
It's true.
Stephen Wheeler.
Well,
all right.
People say that.
So, are you okay with bitter bust-ups in rock history, my friends?
Yeah.
You are?
I am, because most of these guys are just pinheads.
Wow.
So, of course, they're going to get into fights and squabbles. You got to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, as we discuss this list, a lot of these guys were together for, like the Beatles, for years and years and years. They met when they were like 7 months old. So, of course, after a while, you make money, you get married, you have kids. You bust up, you get into stupid arguments. And so a lot of it has to do with that. They're just not kind of crazy people. They were just together a long time. That's it.
So basically, it's like marriage.
You shut your filthy pie hole.
How dare you use those words here?
Yeah.
Well, this is actually an article, and we kind of modified it a little bit. This was actually done by four guys actually from the Classic Rock magazine, which is Henry Yates, Jerry Ewing, and Malcolm Doane, and alongside with Jeff Barton.
But do not call him Master Yates.
Don't call him Master
That
Yates
gets a
at
little-
all, no. So they went with a few of the bands, and we kind of removed the few that we felt had to fit our, basically our
knowledge.
Our knowledge,
these
too.
guys, we didn't know them.
That's right. So I'll start off with the first one.
Okay.
Wheels, you got to go with the second one, and Ian,
course.
obviously the third, and obviously the people that know us, you know why we're going with this. So here we go. Van Halen. Of course, this is on the list. Why is it top of the list? Why not? The biggest arguments of all was always David Lee Roth versus Eddie at the time, and Sammy Hagar came in, and obviously there was an issue there. I'm assuming Eddie probably had an issue with Sammy, and Eddie had an issue with Dave, and then Dave came back to kind of like save face for the band and make them who they were once again.
Save face for Dave, too.
Well, that's it. So they said if David Lee Roth was capable of embarrassment and Eddie not quite so drunk, one imagined both parties might have squirmed as the reunited Van Halen recovenanted for rehearsals in 2007. From what I read and what I also understood and very happy to hear is that the fans were very happy when Hagar left and Roth came back. So those are the fans of my era.
Yeah.
That, everyone knows my vinyl collection. When I say I have every Van Halen with Roth, that's where it stops. Sammy was okay.
He's okay.
But he was no Dave.
No.
So when it came to people ask me, are you on, Roth versus Van Halen, whose side were you on? Well, I'm obviously going to take Roth.
You did a show on that, didn't you?
I did one on Van Halen, and I still defend my argument that, I'm on David Lee Roth's
So,
side.
ladies and gentlemen, go to our website and look that one up under
Van Halen.
Van Halen, he's there.
That, and obviously frontman, I think.
Thanks, frontman,
I
yeah.
put him as
Diamond
one of my
Dave,
top
yeah.
frontmen. Yep, Diamond Dave. So, next one, Wheels.
Pink Floyd, which is probably the most middle-class bourgeois fight in rock history.
It's sad. It's sad,
It's
too,
sad.
eh? It's just weird.
And they could fix it. They could.
That's the worst
They
part,
still
yeah.
could.
Because they're all alive except for Stephen Wright.
Yeah, but he wasn't part of the feud anyways.
No.
He's a laid-back guy, yeah.
Yeah, he passed away, and I know Nick Mason would like Roger and Dave.
He tried.
I
think he's still
is.
trying.
He's still trying.
Well, these guys are both...
The problem's Roger. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
He's a confrontation. Well, he got in trouble recently with his political views. But anyway.
He always gets in trouble with his political views
Yeah.
anyways. So when I say why I say this is because the problem started in 75 with Wish You Were Here, but they get really bad by 83. There's no band like let's face it, Van Halen. They would get to fist fights within 6 months and sort it out to a certain extent, or just throw the guy out of the band. These guys are so polite, so aware. I think that they also had a good thing that it's almost a decade till things get to really a bad point. And then it gets really middle class because Waters goes out of the band and badgers the High Court in 86 to prevent Gilmour from sullying the name of Pink Floyd. He fails, and he dismisses the 87, probably last great album, Momentary Lapse of Reason, as a pretty fair forgery. I mean, this is really British, middle class, polite, passive-aggressive fights.
Yeah.
When did the Division Bell come out?
Early 90s, if memory serves. Division Bell is good, but I mean, it's no longer really... They're getting to the point where it's almost like a greatest hits album.
But it's all Gilmour.
Oh yeah, it's a Gilmour album.
And it's funny because Roger Waters, and this upsets you when I say this, he's still taking his 1988 The Wall tour.
I know. Earlier than 88 too. Like half the audience wasn't born. It's like 82 or 84. Yeah. For God's sakes, he's touring with that. I don't know.
It's his. It's no different than Roger Hodgson with the Breakfast in America.
I know. It's his. It's something about it. He didn't. Okay, Van Halen. It was one of those frisky live bands. I think of Pink Floyd as this kind of laid-back drug band. Why are you guys so angry at each other? What happened to you guys?
You changed their dosage.
Yeah, really, the medication was shut off. Well, next on the list, we have the Doors of the 21st Century. All right, that's the name that Ray Manzarek and who would it be, Robbie Krieger, gave to the reformed Doors, because they were trying to get around the copyright on the name The Doors, so they wouldn't get their ex-drummer, John Densmore, in a hissy fit. Well, it didn't work out that way. He still sued them, and they had to shut it down. And they finally ended up with their last names of The Doors, whatever it was, Manzarek and Krieger of The Doors. Now, John Densmore is one of these kind of confrontatious guys, too. I've read his bio, or autobio. The thing is that he comes across, he's meditating, he's sitting out on the beach, he's just laying back. But when you think it through, the logic doesn't hold. Because he was saying that, well, we're not going to, the Doors, we can't violate Jim's anti-commercial stance, so we can't do this, we can't do that. Yeah, well, he made 2 albums with the Doors without Jim Morrison. So isn't that kind of exploiting the name? So it doesn't quite hold water. So yeah, there's a lot of litigation. At one point, John Densmore was with, this, you're not going to believe this, but was with the parents of Jim Morrison's dead ex-girlfriend, Pam Courson, suing the other guys. Like, it just doesn't stop. Anyway, everyone's more or less deceased that was involved in this, and everything's been worked out. So
I would have called it epic fail of the 21st century.
Yeah, really. Or this is the end. Yeah, no. Anyway, Smashing Pumpkins. Wow, there's a charmer, Billy Corgan. Yeah, he was.
I wonder, do you go up to Billy Corgan and do the Simpson routine? Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins, Homer Simpson smiling politely?
No.
Just to piss him off every time?
He is a very difficult human being to work with, and he had refused in the beginning. They had said to him, for copyright reasons, even though you wrote the song, just make it, 25, 25, 25. Do 25% for each writer or each artist in the band, just to kind of avoid.
That's what the Doors did.
Do it for simplicity purposes, and obviously, okay, I get it, Billy. We know you are the guy. You are the brains behind it, and we know which bands are the brains behind it. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
Oh yeah.
The Beatles. We all knew it was John and Paul. And we move on from there. We know the Stones, it's Mick and Keith, and we leave it as that. So we know Billy wrote all the songs, but is he a difficult individual? Yeah, I guess he is. And what it says here, working for Smashing Pumpkin, Billy Corgan was a living hell. That's what they have right here. And this is because the bassist Darcy Retzky, who is actually a Canadian girl, I think she's from Montreal.
Yep.
I think she probably got into drug issues. I'm not quite sure. He kicked her out. He kicked out somebody else, which I see here.
James.
Yeah, Jimmy Chamberlain's the only one that got back for the reunion. He didn't bring her back. So,
I didn't know they were managed by Sharon Osbourne either. That's the news to me.
But you have to be a really big pain in the behind for Sharon Osbourne, who managed her husband, who was
Yeah.
a severe, bizarre case, to call you a baldy twat in a dress.
Yeah, I know. What did you do to her?
Well, that's so. Yeah, is he a difficult guy to work with? Yeah. Am I surprised that he's on this list? No, not at all. Am I surprised with the first three? No, not at all. And now here we go, Ian. You could talk about
Well,
this
the
one.
Beatles. I mean, the Beatles. You know, I'll read you the first sentence here, folks. In the end, all it took to hobble the Beatles was a Japanese artist named Yoko Ono.
Done.
Really, you know, there's all these apologists. No, they would have broken up anyway. And if you look at the documentary Get Back, you can see they were disintegrated. Well, folks, in the end, no Yoko. There probably was a few more albums in the Beatles. That's my personal opinion. Everyone has an opinion on this. If you look at Get Back, she is in every shot. At one point, dragging a mattress in to sleep. People say, yeah, well, if she wasn't there, John would have left. You don't know that, right?
Well, we know it wouldn't have been as good, though, at that point. Because listen to what John does in the early 70s. Yeesh.
Well, look. Here's the thing. I've always agreed on the argument. If they never would have broken up, Band on the Run would have been another Beatles album. All Things Must Pass would have been another Beatles album.
Well, yeah, definitely elements of it. Sure, absolutely.
And what, the Imagine album?
Yeah.
That would have been... What was his first one after?
It was with Plastic Ono Band. And that was his best, in my opinion.
So, think about it. And then I still agree that Paul should say, you know what, John? Fine. Go. Leave. You bring in Billy Preston full time. You already had a guitarist. It wasn't hard to go find somebody. You could have found somebody else. Jeff Lynne was always around producing. No, but it's true though. He was around. He helped on a few albums, and he actually, if you look at some of the Harrison albums, Jeff Lynne did produce.
But that's later.
It doesn't matter. He was still around though. Like another, they would have.
Really.
But they knew him.
Not really.
It wasn't hard for them to go find a guitarist.
No, but it's not Jeff Lynne. Like nobody.
Maybe
1960.
Clapton would have been there.
He can't produce.
No, he could.
No, not as a
guitar,
producer, as a guitarist.
Oh, you're talking about being overshadowed. Yeah, you could do
Well, it
that.
doesn't matter. You're joining one of the greatest bands of all time.
But
And then
he's a-
George Martin after that goes and managed Cheap Trick, which is
I want you.
yeah.
So that's the Beatles. Yeah. So sorry, there's a lot of infighting. We're not going to go over this again and again. But yeah, Yoko stirred the pot.
So are you on Team Paul or Team John, Ian?
Well, John Lennon is. There's a great interview with Paul on Howard Stern, and Howard says, "So tell me who broke up the Beatles?" And Paul says, "I'll tell you who. John." Yeah, he broke the Beatles up. He left. He signed off first.
You
That
shouldn't
easy.
have.
Yeah, well, he's got Yoko with him, and whenever he's bored, or you take a break. You don't, you know what I mean? You go on hiatus. You don't break up the biggest band in the history of the world. Anyway, that's my feeling.
Sex Pistols. Well, this is actually a fight in its own. They're a bar band.
And they're a bar band that just made it really, really big. But yeah, I mean, if you hear interviews today with John Lydon, better known as Johnny Rotten, he kind of waxes nostalgic about Sid Vicious. But at the time, they were at each other's throats because they're punks and they hate everybody. And it's just that, and they hated their late manager Malcolm McLaren. Oh, McLaren made them who they were, so maybe you're biting the hand that feeds you. So I don't think it's legitimate. They're just, at that time, 1978, violent, disagreeable people.
Well,
Well,
look,
like most of Britain, really.
Yeah, really.
look, Sid and Nancy, when they hooked up together, that was a collision course in the States.
Wow, that was
yeah.
great. That's up there with them, Jim Morrison and Pam Corson.
Although
Like-
when you look at the Sex Pistols, you remember those bands in the late 50s, early 60s in the South that they had to play behind like a chicken wire not to get.
Yeah.
I always had that feeling that the Sex Pistol, you would have had to have the chicken wire within like on the stage so that these guys would not go at each other's throat.
Pretty
And
well.
they might have gone another 2 years.
They're dreadful. But they all came out okay, except, of course, poor Sid. You know.
Yeah, he had the short end of the stick.
Yeah, plus his mother bought him the heroin. How's that for your mom?
That was nice of her.
Really? The heroin that had killed him. God.
The Kinks. Ian, you said you want to talk about this
The
one.
Kinks are the original. People go to Oasis. Yeah, well, the Kinks are the original Fighting Brothers. Ray and Dave Davies. Like these guys went at each other, have been at each other for 60 years. On and on. I don't know what you know what I mean. Ray writes the material. Dave is a great guitar player, But for some reason, these guys don't get along, and they never have. They've mellowed because everyone's in their like late 70s now. That happens.
Well,
But
that's what Metamucil does to you.
yeah, really made music puts you down. But yeah, so who knows? But they are the original battling brothers, you know. And then when they talk about the Gallaghers and Oasis, they always go back to Ray and Dave.
So this is actually one of my bands, and it's Guns N' Roses, and obviously the argument there has always been Axl Rose, no surprise. I'm more on Slash's side just because I like Slash, nothing against Axl. So when the rumors were confirmed that when he did Chinese Democracy...
You mean Axl did it?
Well, yeah, sure. Well, look, I have nothing against Axl Rose. I actually think Axl Rose was a great singer in his time, and obviously age has caught up to the guy, but he's still going, so give him credit for that. I'm glad that they're back. I do miss Steve Adler. I never would have got rid of Steve Adler. I think he was one of the underrated drummers in the mid-'80s for sure. But they did say that whenever they recorded Chinese Democracy, Axl went in, did all the lyrics, then Slash went in separately to do the music, which is true. And I have to give credit to Duff McKagan because they're these are the original threes. You know, it's actually Dush, Slash, and Axl. Obviously, Izzy Stradlin is gone, and Steve Adler's gone, and even Matt Sorum left. But Duff kind of kept, I guess,
coalesced,
kept the peace. So you got to respect that. And you know what? Hey, at that time, they had a little hiatus, I think, from 1997 till they came back in '08. Slash kept busy. He toured with Michael Jackson as his guitarist. He helped create Velvet Revolver at the time. He was with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. So he's been busy.
I think Axl bought some new kilts too.
Axl got some new kilts. He put on like some positive weight because he kind of bulked up.
I know.
Well, no, he was at the gym and like the guy when you saw him in concert, he beefed up. This guy he was almost like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Yeah, but pre-Chinese Democracy,
he was thin.
No, he was thin when we were teenagers. Then he had a chunky, chubby period.
A little chubby, and then he went to keto diet, and then he lost some weight. So yeah, no surprise there. So again, Slash versus Axl, I'm gonna take Slash. I'll be on his side just because he's quiet. I don't think that guy really wants to argue with anybody.
No, it's true. He's pretty mellow.
He's got his stovetop hat, his cigarette hanging out. He's good. He's happy.
Yeah, I've never seen him get too cranked about anything.
He still looks the same.
Well, you can't tell what he looks like. That's the thing.
I wish I had hair like that, though. That'd be super cool. I'd love to have that hair.
I think when he lifts his hat, the hair goes with it, though. He's bald as a baby's ass.
So the next one is surprising, but Wheels, obviously you know this band a little bit better than all of us. Go ahead with Metallica.
Yeah, so Metallica, it's a weird band to have on this list because the fight here is before they got really big. So what we have to know is that Dave Mustaine from Megadeth was in the early lineup in the early 80s, way before anybody really knew Metallica. And this fight actually involves dogs, which goes to show that it's really bizarre. Like, it involves two pit bull terriers. And basically, Dave brought them around the house of the original bassist. And the dogs were basically on the car of the bassist, and they were going around and they started fighting, and it went downhill from there, and basically he was thrown out of the band.
Well, this pinhead bought two pit bulls and let them jump on a guy's car. I'd kick him out of any band I was in too. What a pinhead.
But it turns out well, because then you have two huge bands by the end of the 80s that are revolutionizing metal. You have Metallica on one side and Megadeth on the other.
Yeah, good point. It worked out.
And I like that. Mustaine was sent packing on the next Greyhound bus.
Which goes to show they had no money.
Yeah. Take your pit bulls with you.
Talk about irony, though. Metallica's a big band, and they're now relevant again because of Stranger Things. So Master of Puppets.
I know. Weird, isn't it?
Weird. Hey, great, because now they're getting new fans of a different generation. And Dave Mustaine got kicked out of one of the biggest metal bands in my generation, and went and started his own metal band, who I would probably say is a close second or third to Metallica.
It is weird.
Yeah, in the 80s.
They're not far off.
I know.
Now, I prefer Metallica. I'm not too familiar with a lot of Megadeth stuff, but if you talk to my childhood friend Mark, he really loved Megadeth because it was a little bit heavier, a little bit edgy, And give credit to Dave Mustaine. Yeah, why not, man? You're still relevant, bud.
You have a good point. Something was there. You don't do that being untalented, but yeah.
And the next one, Ian, The Clash. You said you were surprised to see this here.
I was
so
surprised.
was I, actually.
I mean, I didn't know about Joe Strummer and Mick Jones battling it out. I knew there was friction. Excuse me. Who knew that? I mean, I'll read a bit here. Strummer memorably compared Mick Jones to, quote, Elizabeth Taylor in a filthy mood. Okay, one of those insults you got to think about for a second. And so Jones hung on till 1983. Who knew? I didn't know any of this stuff. But anyway, they were a great band in their time. London Calling's a great double album. And I didn't know about this infighting. Too bad that this stuff has to happen. C'est la vie.
C'est la vie. Next one's Black Crowes, and talk about sibling rivalry.
Oh, yeah. These guys took over from the Oasis.
I like that. Oasis, my ass. Black Crowes, man, Chris Robinson told the Rolling Stone in 1996. So basically him and his brother Rich, would fight, fist fights all the time. Now they made peace. They're back. In other words, we need money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really. The mortgage is up.
The mortgage is up. We got to renew. The interest rates are going at 4.5%, give or take 5%. So, let's get back and let's make peace.
I love you.
I love you, brother. But this is no hidden secret. And am I glad that they're back together? Yeah, why not? I don't mind the Black Crowes. I think they had some good music back in their day, and see if you could rekindle some of that magic. Don't write new stuff. Just tour.
Yeah, exactly.
Just tour. Next one is Saxon. Or Saxon. Ian, you want to talk about Saxon?
I want to talk about them because I never heard about them. Do you know anything about Saxon?
Nope.
Well, we better... I'm sorry, folks. They're about 20 years old, and they had their little fisticuffs. And you're just going to have to look that up. I mean, they're a British metal band.
All right. The Police. Well... No hidden secret there. Gordon Sumner and Stuart Copeland, so Gordon Sumner known as Sting, hated each other from the beginning till the end, and they still hate each other till this day. And yet they still attended the reunion just because out of respect. But as it was said and it was confirmed, Stuart Copeland would fix his crash cymbals every time on tour to make sure he would not look at Sting whenever he'd be on stage. Talk about perfection. And if you look at
that's just sad, right?
It is sad. And I told that to my drum teacher Chuck, and he says, yeah, he goes, you got to give him credit, he did angle it quite perfectly so you don't have to look at his bloody face. And Copeland's still a great drummer in my opinion.
And Sting wrote some great songs for the Police, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, and Sting, whether he's difficult, whether he's not, I like his music. I don't know if you guys saw that video on Facebook of this man doing a cover for him when they're honoring him, and he was like just butchering the Every Breath You Take, and he was singing it in Spanish, and you could see him cringing, and I forget who it was. It was a Spanish singer that was doing the tribute to him. It was so sad and painful to watch. I felt bad for Sting, and for the first time I'm like, you have every right to be peeved, my friend. You have every right to be upset.
In a way, though, there's a secret kind of happiness to it, too. Yeah. The guy's going to do Every Breath You Do. Sting is inherently pompous. That's his... I'm not just making that up. He's all this for the last 40 years.
He was in Dune.
I know, right out the window. There you go. I know. There you go.
Next one. What do we got, Ian?
We got Blondie. Yeah, when this came to light, again, I didn't know about this when I saw their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame acceptance in 2006. It was really awkward and embarrassing because some of the original members got up and Debbie Harry said, "You're not in my real band," and oh man, it was just awkward. I don't know what these guys did, but it didn't work out. Nigel Harrison was the original bass player. Now he's on Parallel Lines, right? And they sued Debbie Harry and Chris Stein. They didn't get any money, and they were sued back. One of these just terrible things. And all of them showed up for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction 2006, which was, you can see it on YouTube. It's really grim. So there you go.
Did you hear any cocktail music?
Welcome to Clark Comments. Shut up and buckle up as the good doctor kicks out the jams and offers a selection of questionable, disturbed opinions that are somehow related to popular music.
Doctor is in the house.
I'm in the house, and I'm about to perform surgery, but it's gentle surgery, and I'll tell you what this.
Not genital surgery, gentle surgery.
Well, you can buy a genital surgery kit, I think, at Shoppers. Just save a lot of money. The scrotal extraction.
Oh, Lord.
No, I want to talk today. What set me off was this interesting comment on Reddit about, I guess it was a woman who attended a Paul McCartney concert, a recent one on his Got Back tour. And there's a certain kind of, how can I say, gentleness about the comments, because he has been criticized, for those of you who follow Mr. McCartney, for his steady deterioration of his voice over the last 5 years.
Soon to be Lord McCartney.
No, he's Sir,
He's
right?
going to be lorded.
Is that even more?
Yeah, it's one step over.
One step over, sir.
Lord Paul.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if that means he's going to have to go to the House of Lords.
Oh, maybe. He's going to have to. Well, that'd be great.
What are we talking about today? It's all rock.
Do you get money for that by any chance?
No, pittance.
You get titles. I'm not
I
sure
don't
if you
think
get money.
he needs much.
I'd like to be Lord Kennedy.
That'd be good.
Go ahead.
Anyway, she was talking about not a defense, but almost like what they used to call an apology for Paul McCartney, saying, yeah, he's 80 and his voice sounds pretty bad on more gentle songs, or not gentle, when he has to yell at high pitch, like maybe on a Mace or something, he can't do it anymore. But it gets kind of Yesterday or Here, There, Everywhere, or For No One, he can still do it. He can still make the ranges, the vocal ranges. And then she makes a good point. She said, would you rather him just not tour anymore? Of course not. Ringo's not doing anything. So if you want to see the Beatles, or as close as you can get to one, you have to almost encourage McCartney and not write all this type of social media stuff about his voice is faltering. And yeah, it is. It's pretty obvious, especially the part of his concert where he brings up a 1969 version of John Lennon doing backup on Two of Us. And you realize, good God, he's an old guy now. He's 80. But as this woman makes the great point of is that I'd rather he be there. You know what you're getting into when you go and see him. He's 80, so he's not going to be doing smoke machines and inverted gainers and cartwheels. He's an 80-year-old guy, and you're pleased he shows up, and then he does a long show, he enjoys it and leaves. He doesn't need the money, okay? I think he can buy Cuba or something. That guy's amazing. So that said, I side with her, and I kind of diss the negativity on this. If you like him, go and see him. He's going to tour. He'll die on stage. He loves entertaining. And that is Clark comment for the day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think he should tour with Angela Lansbury just for the amazing resemblance.
I know.
The physical
People
resemblance.
I think
know.
you should buy Canada.
I think someone figured out once Bill Gates could buy Portugal. I thought, wow.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's a lot of money. I'm here to buy your country.
So Bill Gates has more money than Sir Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and
Not Elon Musk.
Jeff Bezos.
Musk, they don't. Yeah, we won't get into that about
Well, I would say
Amber Heard owes him a lot of money, so
Yeah.
maybe.
No, I think in some ways Bill Gates is more. I mean, Musk and Bezos are currently more higher up on the list of the wealthy people, but their stock is a lot more volatile, whereas Microsoft doesn't move all that much.
No, it's pretty well stable.
It's stable, so I would say he's the richer guy in the long run, kind of thing. Like, his money doesn't move as much, but unlike the other two, he spends it at a speed that.
He gives a lot to charity,
Exactly.
and he is retired. So,
And my favorite billionaire has to still be Sir Richard Branson. He's just like the cool guy. He's just cool.
He's okay.
He's like laid back. He's chilled. He doesn't get into arguments. He does his thing. Whatever. Virgin Records, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Airlines,
Virgin Space.
Virgin Space.
I still want to get like a Virgin slingshot and shoot his Virgin balloon out of the air.
All right. So next on the list we got Black Sabbath, and I'm just going to do this,
Yes, sir. So he's doing the devil horns
As
because-
developed.
which is a sign of good omen.
Yes, that's
It
right.
is.
It's a sign of good omen, and it leads into Ronnie James Dio
That's
whose
true.
original tenure with Black Sabbath actually
I didn't even know that.
started
Yeah.
huge arguments,
It's
but
true.
strangely not
It was
in the band
grandmother.
per se. It's basically the fans, more or less, that actually had a big problem with him, more than anything else. I mean, there has been a lot of infighting within Black Sabbath. Again, it's like the Rolling Stones, it's like the Beatles. These guys have been together since they were in diapers.
Yeah, I mean, this is natural.
And let's face it, if the Beatles had Yoko, Black Sabbath had Sharon Osbourne. So
Yeah, who would you rather have? Oh my God.
So I mean, it's an interesting fight, but to me, it's more of a fan problem than it is a band problem.
That's nicely put. Yeah.
Well, the next one is just a problem in general. Rage Against the Machine, Zach De La Roca called time on Rage Against the Machine in the 2000s, stating that our decision-making process has completely failed, but all fingers point to an event at the same year of the MTV Awards of being the final straw. Okay, listen. These guys are heavily political activists, or activists in general. Majority of it is on a political stance. They're just angry individuals. They are now touring again.
They are,
which they restarted in 2022. I had the chance to go see them, but I decided to take that money and buy Eagles tickets instead. So I'm going to go see the Eagles. But that being said, look, these guys are just angry all around, and at the end of the day, whenever something comes up, it doesn't shock me. I think they're in the business of shock value. If you ask me, Ian, I don't know if you want to agree with that. That this is a band that just likes to shock everything in the news. You know, just their title alone of their name,
everything,
their political stance.
That's
they're
right.
angry, and that's cool. You want to be an activist, and that's fine. You need people, you know, that have to have a voice for those that don't have a strong voice. Also, it helps that they are financially capable of doing it.
Yeah,
not
good
a lot of
point,
people
good
can
point.
do that.
Yep.
But hey, Godspeed.
Yeah, whatever. I would go to the Eagles too. I just want to have fun in my life.
Exactly.
That's it.
I don't need a message.
Ian, Kiss, one of your favorite bands.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Kiss, or is there a known Kiss Incorporated? Yeah, I mean, what can you? Everybody knows about. It's not really infighting. It was whatever Genes decides that day. He wakes up with a stomach pain. Someone's fired. I mean, he runs the band. He owns the name. What? So he falls out. He hires somebody to replace Paul Stanley and the original guys, Peter Criss, and somebody else comes in. It doesn't matter. It's just it's
a machine.
Yeah, it's a novelty act. It's a bizarre situation. He owns everything with it. So, anyway, then the most recent news is because of his age, Gene Simmons said he'll no longer tour. But knowing Simmons is some kind of weird gimmick. He's going to do a final farewell thing. I don't know.
And actually, we want to really show how much you're right when you say Kiss Inc. Right now, for our Canadian fans, if you go to Harry Rosen, so for our fans outside of Canada, Harry Rosen is like Barney's, or like a higher tier men's clothing. Yeah. There is a Kiss, which is it's not called Kiss on a shirt, but there's a Kiss T-shirt with Gene Simmons' face on it.
Oh my God!
And it's $180, and it's a cotton shirt. So
they should give you $180.
You can get off Amazon for $25.
I was gonna say, like,
it's free shipping if you have the Prime.
What a terrifying thing to wear.
Why would you want to wear a Gene Simmons shirt?
From Harry Rosen of all places.
Yeah,
I'd
really.
rather wear a Shannon Tweed one, to be honest.
Yeah, Canadian.
Yeah, she's Canadian, and from Tweed, Ontario. Funny enough.
Is she from Tweed? No.
She's from Tweed.
No way.
Yes, sir.
I know. Tweed is like there's 4 people there. 3 now.
That's what I was gonna say.
Toto. I didn't know they had it in them to argue, but I'll just read it out verbatim or summarize. Soft rock giants Toto have never been too lucky with singers, ousting the likes of Bobby Kimball, Fergie Fredrickson, and current incumbent Joseph Williams, who's been in the band 3 times over the years.
Difficult.
But the first singer, Jean-Michel Byron, a flamboyant South African, foisted on the band by their record label in 1990, who really got up in the band's noses. When he told guitarist Steve Lukather that he'd never heard of Jimi Hendrix, the writing was on the wall. Sayonara, buddy.
Who says that, really?
Someone does not know Jimi Hendrix.
And you're in Toto. Hey, the Eagles. Yeah, if you go to YouTube, there is an audio clip of Glenn Fry and Don Felder
Arguing.
on stage.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and get you, man. You better get going after the show. I'm going to punch you. Like this type of pitiful stuff. They were both going through something. And that's well known. And they broke up. And then they asked Don Henley, you going to get together? He said, yeah, maybe when hell freezes over.
And sure enough.
Hell froze over. And so did the mortgage payments. And so they got back together. But yeah, that's a really well-known feud.
And it's really funny because leading into Iron Maiden, Steve Harris always had a definite idea of how Iron Maiden should be considered very metal. And he fired Dennis Stratton in 1980 because he listens to the Eagles.
Oh, really?
And Stratton replied, and that's what I love. That's Rich coming from a fan of Jethro Tull.
Nice, right. Good one. Nice kickback. Good kickback.
Let's be honest. I'd rather listen to the Eagles than Jethro Tull. Because Jethro Tull, maybe I could do 3 songs I like. Eagles, I just could listen to almost every
Greatest
album.
hits, yeah, especially me.
Your noises?
Okay. I do. What's that about?
Welcome to Kennedy's Corner. Following the advice of a behavioral psychologist, Ferris Kennedy has created a forum to express his nightmares, his terror, and his love of rock music. Dr. Clark and medicated Wheeler help with his therapy by answering questions, or just acting like they're interested.
Here's a good one.
Yeah.
Here's the title.
Yeah.
Who's a better songwriter, lyrics or music? So I'm going to start with you, Ian.
Yes.
Van Morrison or Bernie Taupin?
For lyrics and music, or
No, just lyrics.
Oh, just lyrics.
So each artist could be either, yeah.
Wow, that's really good. I would say just for lyrics alone, I'd go with Bernie Taupin. Yeah.
I figured you would.
Yeah, he's a good lyricist.
This one here, I'm on the fence of where you might go, but I'll ask you anyways. John Lennon or Paul McCartney?
For lyrics, I'll go with Lennon.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
As a Beatle or post Beatle?
The whole thing together.
Okay.
I mean, McCartney can get so saccharine, right?
True, yeah.
He goes so over the edge.
David Crosby or Jimmy Buffett?
Oh, I would go with David Crosby
Okay.
in his prime, yeah.
Neil Young or Bob Dylan? Very similar.
Yeah, they're really similar, aren't they? Dylan has better lyrics. Yeah.
Okay. If you had to choose to look like one of them, who would you look like?
Yeah, really. The mind boggles. You can't decide that one. What a terrifying choice.
Keith Emerson or Ray Manzarek?
For lyrics.
No music.
Oh, for music. Oh.
The title is lyrics / music, so you know which artist is more of a music composer versus...
Okay, well, I'll go with Manzarek for sure.
Eric Clapton or George Harrison?
I'd go with Eric Clapton.
Elton John or Billy Joel?
Elton John.
John Mellencamp or Tom Cochrane?
Yeah, okay. John Mellencamp or Tom Cochrane? I'm going with Tom Cochrane. Good Canadian boy.
Keith Richards or Billy Gibbons?
Keith Richards, for sure. He's fun.
David Bowie or Jim Morrison?
Oh, that's a really good one. I think in the end, I'll go with Bowie.
Bryan Adams or Bruce Springsteen?
It's a difficult one. I'll go with Springsteen because I know it.
Don Henley or Glenn Fry?
I'm gonna go with Henley. What the hell?
Brian May or Jimmy Page?
Well, Jimmy Page.
Angus Young or Pete Townsend?
Pete Townsend.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler.
Yes, sir.
Tony Iommi or Kirk Hammett?
Tony Iommi.
Prince or Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson.
David Byrne or Roger Waters?
Ooh. I'd say David.
Eddie Van Halen or Slash?
Slash.
Steve Harris or Lemmy Kilmister?
Lemmy.
Eddie Vedder or Chris Cornell?
Chris Cornell.
Roger Hodgson or John Fogerty?
John.
Geddy Lee or David Gilmour?
Oh, David Gilmour.
Here's an interesting one. Gord Downie or Michael Stipe?
Ooh. Gord.
Gord? Stephen Page or Ed Robertson?
Oh, Ed Robertson. Oh, sorry, it's Stephen Page. Sorry.
Oh, you can't go back.
No.
Phil Collins or Peter Gabriel?
Phil Collins.
Oh, interesting.
Ian probably go Gabriel, eh?
Yeah, go Gabriel. That's me.
Steve Perry or Tom Petty? Because they both wrote some good stuff.
Yeah.
I know where Ian would go.
Yeah, I'm going to piss off the doctor. I'm going to say Tom.
Ian's not going Tom.
No, I'm going Tom.
Robert Plant or Roger Daltrey?
Oh, Robert Plant.
And the last one, Ozzy Osbourne or Frank Zappa?
Oh, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
And that's what we have for Kennedy's Corner.
Excellent. Thanks you very much.
Ian, I always like to ask you, what you think about this one? Challenging enough for you?
Yeah, you had a few good ones there that were just painful. I mean, it was the Dylan and Neil Young.
No, it was the Tope Morrison, be honest. That one
Was painful.
because it was hard.
Yeah, they're both strong rock lyricists, but yeah, in the end, yeah.
Bernie Tope wrote a lot of good
He
stuff.
wrote a lot of great songs, so
And he's still going.
yeah, in a way he is. It's true.
So, we got now the Smiths.
The Smiths.
Ian.
Well, just because Morrissey's one of those guys you love to hate, and he is gifted, and he fights himself. He's very prolific, he's very creative, and everyone's mad at him, and about unpaid royalties, this and that, and they've been to court, they've been out of court, millions of dollars have changed hands, and it's almost what you'd expect from any band Morrissey's in. It's just the way he operates, So, no, I'm not surprised. I had no idea. I'm not going to read the article, rather the snippet to you, but I had no idea of the court actions. But that's the kind of guy he is. Just check him out. Check a few of his little talks out. Bright guy, but not maybe the most pleasant guy.
The next one I got here, I'll leave it to you, Wheels.
Blizzard of
Oz.
Yeah, so Blizzard of Oz, basically everybody knows two albums of Blizzard of Oz, so the self-title and Diary of a Madman. Both of those albums had bassist Bob Daisley and drummer Lee Kerslake, and they never saw a bloody red cent of the royalties. So they had to sue Ozzy back in '86. They won. And in 2002, they had to sue him again because, again, they didn't get the royalties. So basically, this goes to show that the doctor...
They lost, too.
And they lost. So this goes to show that what the doctor has said many times on the show, when you give pinheads money, it just leads to fights.
Yeah, it just... They don't know how to handle it. Plus, he's got Sharon Osbourne behind on the other side.
Yeah, so
She's
she
smart.
knows how to manage.
She's very smart.
I won't mess with her. She's not going to get a penny. So that didn't help. Ozzy on his own probably would give you the shirt off his back.
Oh, God, yeah. He seems like the nicest guy in the world,
I
although
know.
the weirdest guy in the world.
I know, he's pretty odd.
Next one is Procol Harum.
Skip the Light Fandango?
That's it. So, Procol Harum main man Gary Brooker,
Yeah.
for years, owned sole rights to the band's 1967 A Whiter Shade of Pale. Then in 2005, keyboard player Matthew Fisher sued, claiming he was entitled to a share of the royalties as co-writer. Surprisingly enough, he won the case and was awarded 40% of all the money.
I know.
I would hate you too if that was the situation.
Well, why the Gary Brooker knew that? He's just a co-writer on it. For God's sake.
Just give him the... Well, of course, I'd be upset if you lose that money, but in the end, you could have prevented this.
Yeah, just be fair with people.
That's it. We like the same thing we had about Billy Corgan earlier. Like,
Yeah.
Just do 25. And I think eventually he ended up doing that, by the way. 25, 25,
Yeah.
25.
Good. Well, the follow-up on Procol Harum, because this fellow, this poor guy that was suing Brooker, waited 37 years. They kicked out the action from court, so he never got it. Then it kind of came back a bit, so he has a share of future royalties. Yeah, well, that's 37 years of Whiter Shade of Pale, rather. that you missed? Like, why do that to people? Why torture them?
I think the only band I know where there was not only was there no fight about the money, but where one of the band, well, the person behind the band actually made sure that the other people had money was the Mamas and the Papas. What was his name? John
Phillips.
Phillips. Basically, when he wrote California Dreamin', the legend has it that he came to Michelle and he told her, "I'm putting your name on it." And she says, "Why? I didn't write it. I didn't write the music and I didn't write the lyrics." He says, "No, this is going to be a hit. This is going to be playing on radio in 50 years, and you're going to need the royalties." He was right.
Pretty well. I mean, I'll give you a little bit of background. This is super trivia, folks. This is about, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, but I was at this hotel in New York City called the Hotel Earl, which is right downtown, and it's not the most high class hotel. Hotel Earl, and I keep a little travel diary, so I wrote down when we were there, when we stayed there. About 25 years later, I was reading a bio of John Phillips, and it was in the room that we stayed that he and Michelle wrote California Dreamin'.
Nice.
Bizarre, true story. Yeah, and that apparently she's still alive. She's the last one.
She's the last one. Yeah.
And she said, "Yeah, that's a true story." He said, "No, you put your name on it." She says she contributed some lyrics, but who knows? There you go.
Megadeth. Well, this one's easy.
Megadeth.
Yeah, the two Daves, Mustaine and Elson, were inseparable until 2002. The former split up of the band after suffering an arm injury.
Oh,
That's it.
that's all it took.
That's all it took. Muffin.
Well, I mean, you should have stuck the two Dobermans on wherever the hell he is.
Next one, Dio. Wheels.
So basically,
He's making a sign with his hand, by the way.
Again,
You
yeah.
can't see that in podcast land.
So Dio plucked Vivian Campbell from another band called Sweet Savage, and they turned him into Dio's guitar hero. And unfortunately, like a lot of big egos, this started some a bleep storm. And Campbell quit to join Whitesnake before joining Def Leppard. So basically, this started a war of word where Campbell allegedly referred to Dio as an awful businessman and, way more importantly, one of the vilest people in the music industry. Which is funny because you've actually never heard a bad thing said about James Dio, except for this guy.
Vivian Campbell, he did all right, man. He's with Def Leppard, they're Hall of Fame.
And Whitesnake.
And Whitesnake. Yeah, okay, whatever. Def Leppard's better. Just they're a little bit more relevant right now.
True. Yeah.
And we all know that Whitesnake is Coverdale, and let's just leave it at that. Vivian's just behind. At least in Def Leppard, Vivian's a little bit more prominent. He's a guitarist, so.
But he's like the Forrest Gump of heavy rock to a certain
good
extent.
point.
Like he just went from
I know.
big band to big band to big band.
Yeah, good point.
So Boston is actually a band which I've always liked. I always felt they only had one good album. Ian, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
But when a band is run by an obsessive perfectionist, in the case of Tom Scholes, it's understandably exasperating for the rest of the members. So when Boston released their spectacular, successful self-titled debut album in 1976, everyone clamored for a quick-fire follow-up. Scholes took 2 years to craft number 2, Don't Look Back, but he still felt rushed. Cheesed off with Scholes' purist approach, guitarist Barry Goudreau sloped off to record a solo offering with the help of fellow Bostonites singer Brad Delp and drummer Sib Hashian. Well, they don't own the name, so they're gone.
They're gone. Basically, that's it.
Deep Purple.
Ian Gillan. Yeah, battled it out with Richie Blackmore. Everyone has battled it out with Richie Blackmore. Not to say Ian Gillan's innocent, but Blackmore is a confrontatious guy. Everybody knows that. He's just a difficult dude. So, no big surprise there.
Deep Purple. Wheels.
No, we just did.
We did Deep Purple.
We did Deep Purple. Oh, excuse me. Dead Kennedys. Anybody?
Think more. This is more Ian's.
Well, there was a singer, Jello Biafra, still around, and he duked it out with former bandmates. The big thing here is you never expected it from them. Like, they're kind of a punk band, a very socially conscious band, and suddenly they're going after each other. for royalty payments. It just doesn't fit. It didn't go with the picture.
Although I have to say, I've watched a lot of videos with Jello Biafra. He is a very interesting person to listen to.
Yeah, he's written books. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah. Which is not something you necessarily associate with punk music from the late 70s, early 80s.
I know. He's kind of freakish that way. Who else we got?
Stone Roses, Enos.
Well, I don't know much about them, but I know there's somebody named Ian in them, so I just wanted to say Ian Brown. No, I don't know. I knew there was a lot of drugs in the band, so wherever you get that, you have problems. We'll just leave it at that.
And the last one they have here is AC/DC, and which is kind of funny. I'm a big AC/DC guy, and I never heard about Phil Rudd being ousted and then coming back. Well, maybe I did, and I just didn't want to believe it. But this is what it is. So Phil Rudd had a little bit of trouble with the law, and they also carried Cliff Slade as a backup drummer just in case he got into trouble again. But this all stemmed back from their Flick of the Switch album in 1983, and it's just basically him and Malcolm going fist to cuffs. Phil is still with the band, and unfortunately Malcolm has passed, but AC/DC is still going, and that's what we got. So who would have known that this band actually would argue? It happens, right? It happens to the best of us.
They were together forever, too. AC/DC's a long-running band, or was.
And now it's time.
They had a backup just in case the law won.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Well, just because Phil Rudd did do, I think he did a bit of time. And now we're going to close it off with a vinyl review.
Oh, hello.
The music at night, it sounds bright on Wheeler's turntable. He shines a light, he keeps his vinyl in sight, and gives you his magnificent review. Now here's a clue we have for you. It's time for Wheeler's Vinyl Review.
So we're talking today about a re-release of a half-speed master of The Who's third album, The Who Sellout, that just came out a few weeks ago. And let's get this out of the way. The sound is amazing. So the sound is a 10 on 10. The music on it, I'd say, is a 9 out of 10. It's not the best of The Who. I like it a lot more than the Quadrophenia that came out about this. Yeah, Quadrophenia to me sounded a little too pompous.
That. Okay. I like the Quadrophenia more than Tommy.
Oh God, yeah. No. That goes without saying.
Yeah. I thought the Who's Tommy was one of their best ones.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
So on this album, this remaster, there's enough new details on there to interest people that have had this album in their collections forever. This is a 2 LP deluxe edition set, and the second disc has about 12 bonus tracks. The lacquer's from the new Abbey Road Studios edition, so if you've been in a record store recently or online, you've probably noticed the Abbey Road Studio little sticker. I think it's at the upper left.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
And up to now, it's not been so much of a gimmick. It's been actually a good sign of really good re-releases. Here we have engineer-producer John Astley, and they're pressed in Germany. So that's usually a good sign as well. Germans are known to have very good pressing. This was true back in the original days of The Who. In their younger years, this is still true today. The remastering work here is not at all showy. It's much more, I would call it a cleaning, like a spring cleaning kind of thing. All the instruments are a lot sharper to the ear. Of course, I'm not going to get into the debate if it's done digitally or not. Of course, it's done digitally if it's remastered by almost definition. Nowadays, it's gone through a digital process. What I like here, it's not too gimmicky. It's black vinyl. I have nothing against the colored vinyl. It's just colored vinyl tends to be slightly more noisy, depending on your equipment. If you have like entry equipment, usually you don't pick up on it, but the minute you go a little higher, you put a needle that's a little more sensitive. Well, again, it depends where it was pressed. So I do recommend that you listen to tattoo the opening if you want to know if it's really for you, this reissue, because you're going to hear Pete's acoustic guitar a lot more on this pressing. Also, I Can See for Miles sounds amazing on this one, and I could keep going on, but this is a really, really great record to put on your turntable.
No, thank you. Yeah, I never really thought much of that album, but I didn't give it a chance. I'll say
because
that.
it was produced by Rick Astley, that's why you didn't know about it.
Yeah, I just I never thought Who's Next was always my Who album in Quadrophenia.
The kids are all right.
Yeah, but I just interesting. They remastered that. Okay,
I think they're going to remaster it all.
I think you're right. Everything's going for $80 now with these things.
Well, no, not that much.
Well, this one was 36 US, so I'm guessing in Canada 50.
50-ish.
$50, yeah, with shipping. You're at 80.
Yeah, really good point.
Well, that
thank
was
you.
fantastic. This is great. Good start to the season.
New season.
Yes, sir.
First show. So I'm Kennedy signing off.
Dr. Dean Clark saying goodbye.
Mr. Wheeler, adios.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.